Hello Final Fantasy fans, and welcome back to another Opus 4 First Look. We're going to be talking about Lightning today, and some of these spoilers are sure to shock you, but first we're going to talk about the Mognet Summoner series. Now, as you can see here, we're very excited to announce Vegas. Now, this again will be just like the Florida event, which the pre-reg link is live now. We will have a cap of 64 with on-site registration available, but it will be extremely limited. And then Sunday will just be a traditional ARG one-day 1K event that they normally do, where first place gets, 400 credit, I believe is what that prize breaks out to. And then, of course, the rest of that prize pot gets split out across top 8. We don't have... we won't announce the pricing or anything like that right now. This is just to get you guys excited, talk about the date, maybe you can start planning for it, and to let you know that we are confirmed for 2 days of Final Fantasy trading card game events. So again, with future support of this, we're going to increase the prize pool, get something for hopefully players on entry if it's a promo. I'm really hoping, hey, GTS, if you're out there watching, I have a couple people coming to you. Let's get some more promos going on this, and let's make some events that are worth coming to. So I'm doing everything I can and reaching out to all of my connections that I've made to try to make this event worth going to. So again, pre-reg for Florida if you haven't already and you can make it, and then look forward to Vegas. The pre-reg and page info will be live the week after Florida because they have to make time to build a page and whatnot, and I think we might be able to increase the pre-reg cap. I have to wait for confirmation on that, but a lot of great things are coming, so I hope you guys are really excited for that. Beyond that, now let's talk about some of the Lightning cards, and I'm going to make a blanket statement, so I hopefully don't have to mention on every single card, but there are a ton of amazing 3-drops now in Lightning that you wouldn't mind playing off of Al Cid. So that is great value, of course. But all these decks are going to kind of fall into different paths, I think, ultimately. And a card I'm not seeing anyone talk about, and I kind of like this, actually. One, the art's just awesome. And two, I like the effect, and if you're playing not Heroic Lulu, but the backup plus 1000 power Lulu, of course it's going to be even better. Long story short, all that basically just says, when he deals damage, he deals 2,000 more. When he takes damage, he takes 2,000 less, because it does say characters, which I really do like as well. So that's also going to help make him live a little bit longer off of your opponent's backup. So this card is going to be really sticky, gets in the field. It's going to make trading really difficult for your opponent. And there are multiple ways in this set that Lightning has really gained ways to either trade up or put yourself in a position where, oh, this is a 7k now dealing 9, for example. That can make it very favorable for you. Again, when you're only having to pay 3 crystal points into this card, and it can trade with a 4, 5, 6 or higher drop, and maybe you have to do a little bit of work past that, sure. But there's different ways like that you're going to be overall creating card advantage over the course of the game. One of my absolute favorite cards is Azul. I think that Behemoth is just absolutely insane. I love this guy has a tutor. Yes, it is a 5 cost, but you get something back out of it, so you get the cost refunded that way. And it's just a good body for what it wants to be doing. Now, it is very important to note that right now it does say Lightning Monster, so it's classified by that, and 3 cost or less. So as I kind of mentioned, there's, in every video, there's a couple cards I just want to keep an eye on that, how good is this going to be in future sets? What other Lightning 3-drop monsters or less are we going to be getting? But again, right now, I think this is absolutely playable with Behemoth, and I'm very excited to be playing this card. Does it make the cut long-term? We'll see, but this is absolutely something that I am sleeving up first. Playing as a 2-of, get to recycle your Behemoths. I think this card is at least worth looking into. And then we have the 3-drop Usher, the EX Burst Deep Ground Soldier kind of deck, which would force you into Ice Lightning. I really want that deck to be a thing, just in general, Deep Ground Soldier, but I think you ultimately want to be in Ice Water for that more standard unit type of package. Maybe you're playing this just for the splash, and there's one other standard unit you really want to play, and you get the EX Burst out of this. Maybe it's the way you play 3 of this, you can splash out in. It gets really weird what you can do with it, but I think ultimately the best combination is going to be more that ice-water variant, so I don't think that this is going to be seeing much play. And again, even if it does, as kind of with all the other kind of niche backup tutors or searches that Max commented in the last video, they're very pointed in what they can do, and outside of that, those decks, obviously they're not going to be seeing a lot of play. Then we have this Little Soldier, which again, just absolutely cute artwork for Theta Rhythm. Enters the field, choose a forward 4 or less, and dull it for 2. So I really like this for what it potentially can do. I think it's nice to have that kind of just extra dull effect if you really need it. I think the type of decks that will want to see this card is, again, I always kind of throw back to it because I love it so much, is the Ice Lightning tap out effect decks, you know, so you have the 4-cost Lightning, you have Shiva, Snow, Amon, all this wonderful stuff now that we have, and it's just one more card that points it in that direction, where previously you might have been playing like Black Mages to trade up, and now you can play this instead just to, you know, force the point of damage when you really want it. I think it's going to be fine in those decks, and it's another way to clear the way for Angel Penance, I believe is his full name, again, so because he has to deal damage to your opponent, or Genesis. So again, there's certain creatures that benefit from this by on-hit effects, but outside of those two cases, I don't see that this card is going to see much play. But a card that's going to be seeing an absurd amount of play, and I think Red Mage Matt is going to have to be renamed to Lightning Mage Matt, or Purple Mage Matt, I guess. That's odd. We're going to stick with Lightning, is Orlando, and this card has just been the absolute nutter butters. He is a 5-drop 9k, which is fine. When he enters the field, he's going to kill something. He has an S effect, which is also going to kill something, maybe give you a surprise blocker as well. There's just a lot of value that this guy can generate. Now, this does put us in a position where it's like, okay, well, how many do we run now? How good is the S effect? So I know there are some people that are saying, like, I'm just going to run 6 and go for it. And I think that's a little bit much. I do like this as a 3 of, because I would love to see this, you know, with Lightning wants to be doing anyways, you're going to be putting yourself in a position where this card is just great. Or if you just have a, you know, be able to threaten that you have it. Once you get to 3 backups, this card's absolutely live. And again, the special is very good for what it wants to be doing. You know, obviously, I think this is going to get a lot of value in those mono Lightning decks, because 2 Lightning can be, you always want to pay for your backups. You don't have to discard another card from your hand, since you're discarding him as a copy of that name. But I think this will see place in a few splash decks as well. Fire Lightning is another one that absolutely jumps out in my mind for, you know, color, or should say element combinations that absolutely want to see this card. But one of the comments I'll ask you guys is, what do you think is the best Orlando deck? Let us know in the comments below. And, you know, kind of my pet deck of choice, what's coming out to be in this set is going to be Wind Lightning. That's also another spot I really like it, but that is such a hard deck to find forward room for right as of right now, so we'll see. Black Waltz 3, another card that is just absolutely insane. Again, Alcid is great to play this, you get to play for free, but and shout out to Justin, who just overran me with this card. But the fact that it on enter shrinks something by 2,000, and when it gets put into the break zone, you get to shrink something by 2k. Like, this is exactly what Heroic Lulu is going to want in a lot of cases, because that shrink power is something that's always welcomed. He's going to be able to, you know, set yourself in a board state where you can play it after combat, finish something off, or you can play it pre-combat to make sure you either force your opponent to take a point of damage or have a really bad trade. And then when it leaves, it does something as well. So I am very excited for this, and I'm shocked, quite honestly, that it's just a rare. Obviously, because it's unique, you can't play multiple of them, and I think that's going to be the biggest drawback of it. So you just can't, you know, always jam 3 of them, and maybe you do anyways, who knows, all the time. But I absolutely see this as a 2 of, and pretty much any deck that's going to be Lightning for the effect, maybe not Water Lightning, I guess, but anything that has a position where it wants to provide value by trading up, which is any of those decks really, or something that's going to be wanting to play a little bit more defensive and use Heroic Lulu to get ultimate value out of that. Then we have 2-drop Warrior. It's a standard unit, which is really nice too. And the 8k body is nice because it gets around if they have, you know, certain ping effects. Yes, it takes double, but there's certain, or not ping effects, excuse me, power reduction effects is what I was looking for there. Like Black Mage is what I was going for. So it gives you this nice, really aggressive early body. And I think this comes much in the way of Marauder. Now, I think that between the two, you know, it's going to be interesting to see which people like Marauder more, or Warrior in this case, but they're both effective, low-cost forwards that want to turn sideways. Now, yes, the big drawback, I realize, so I will add this caveat, is that if they have a 4k forward, it can block and kill this card. So you want to be playing the Lulu, make it a 9k, so at a minimum they have to block with a 5. But if you're playing Lightning, chances are that there's a way to have a variety of effects that will break their lower cost forward, so then you're forcing them to trade with their 4, 5, and 6 drops. I think that can be absolutely great. If it sees play, I have no idea, but I can certainly see some board states where this becomes a very powerful card and makes absolute hell for your opponent. 2-drop Lancer, put in the break zone, give something first strike until end of turn. It's a backup on command. So if you're playing Lightning, just play the starter. Mackie, I believe, is a card. You know, give an attacking Lightning forward first strike. Outside of that, I'm not totally in love with this card. depends on basically what your element combination, what is the 2-drops that you have. I think it's nice to offer up that utility, and I like the fact that it's a card that breaks itself, so you can always just put it in a deck as maybe a 1 of 2 of, and if you see it early, you get to play it, get the value out of it, force a, you know, potentially trade if your opponent has to, or just be able to kill something, surprise your opponent with it. But outside of that, it's not something that I'm going to be just absolutely running 3 of, you know, just because. I think it has its place, but it's going to be a bit more limited in where it's good. And then we have what I'm just going to call DD, and I'm sure there's at least one angry comment about that. But when I put from field and breaks down, choose an active forward, deal it 7,000. So again, this is another one of those cards that I want to have this card, and I want to have Heroic Lulu on the field, because you just get to attack with this and say, all right, man, you can block. I'm definitely going to kill your guy. Or if you block very poorly and I have something else up my sleeve, I'm just going to Lulu and then get rid of 2 of your guys. Like, this is a surprisingly interesting card that I think has room to see play. And it is a Knight as well. So if you're playing the Knights deck, and I'd have to look at what that forward configuration is again, but I'm pretty sure you're playing this card. It's Tactics for Ramza. It's a Knight, so it gets the buffs, all of the buffs, really. And I think that, you know, the fact that it can become a 7 or 8K quite easily is something worth looking into. So this card gets a positive from me. Dragon's absolutely insane. I'm pretty sure everyone already agrees with this or has already seen this card, has played with it, realized that it's great. But for a 2 cost, it sits on the field, and then for 1, it's an Odin for monsters. So choose a monster 4 or less, break it. And then for investment of only 2 more, choose 1 4 to 4 cost or less and break it. So it's an Odin that is then divided. And again, because there's a lot of different ways that we can get monsters back or get extra value. Again, Azul, if we really want to get this back. This is just a card that if you're playing Lightning, I'm going to be quite shocked if you aren't playing at least 2 of it in every single Lightning deck. And I just might be overrating this card, and that's, you know, quite honestly a possibility. But the fact that it lets you break up those payments and just sits out there, I think is something that's absolutely worth respecting and sleeving up. Then we have Nashu, which, you know, if you're playing Hildebrand, this card's absolutely fine, because it's going to give him that significant power boost, which can be helpful. It gives him haste, and he's such a problematic card in getting around certain effects that you just have to deal damage to kill it, type of thing. So if you're playing that, if you're kind of all in on this Lightning deck that wants to play haste guys, and maybe you're playing the new Lightning as well, I think they go very well together. But again, you're going to be quite limited on all these valuable slots that you have now in Lightning for how, you know, we're in Opus 4 now, so there's just the concentration of cards that are good on their own is increasing to a point where it's harder and harder to play these 2-card combos. But I think because we're playing a early 2-drop backup that has a pretty decent effect, if we're being honest, I'm all for it, just because why not run it? We'll talk about that more in a minute. 2-drop Ninja for haste. Yeah, Golbez. Golbez is getting another haste target, which is love it or hate it. We'll see. Outside of that, I can't imagine this is going to be seeing much play. It's just a 3K, which is pretty sad. But it is a standard unit, so maybe Water Lightning standard units, yay. But we'll just kind of go on from that. And then Hildebrand. So yes, basically that block of text there says you have to deal damage to it. So if they have anything that says put or remove, it goes back to your hand instead. And what I really like, and is worth, I think, kind of this side conversation, is his special effect. Now, the first thing that I thought about in this case was kind of the Strongest Sword Gilgamesh kind of deck, where you have such a high concentration of forwards, and, you know, it doesn't have to dull for the effect, so you can still, you know, attack, surprise your opponent with this, play another 4, put on the field, dull, if not put on the break zone. So the one downside I will say is that it is not a May. So this is finally one of the instances outside of Devout, which we've obviously had, where you could just try to do this thing, realize you hit a Gilgamesh, you already have a Gilgamesh in play, and go, oh crap, they're both going to break now, there's nothing I can do about it. So it is a little bit of a gamble on that. But I think if you have enough unique characters, you know, you're not running, what, 16 Gilgamesh or whatever we have now of him, I think you can get a little bit more value out of this card. Outside of that, it's going to be really hard to get that effect. Like, it's a card that's going to want to return to your hand anyway, so you're going to have multiple copies of him fairly easily, I would expect. So can you get the value out of this card? You know, how bad does it feel when, like, you mill a Shantoto or something that's or put a Shantoto into the break zone off top of your deck, you know, whatever that card might be. it's gonna hurt. And the other important thing is it does have to be your opponent's effect. So no, you can't play your own Shantoto and have all the value there. So forgot to mention that. Quick note there. Card I want to see play, but we'll see where it ends up going. Okimoto, this is absolutely for you. This is Freya's ultimate card, the final form, if you will, of Dragoon Tutors, and it is an EX burst. So if we're being honest for a minute, within all of these, again, you know, more niche backups that search your deck for a very specific application. In this case, it's Job Dragoon or card name Dragoon, you know, with the exception of Fat Chocobo, which will probably have its own. That's kind of another caveat there. It doesn't have an EX burst, but it gives a buff, what have you. Strictly 3-drop, search your card for a deck. What this enables for Freya is just absolutely insane. Now is, you know, I'll make the joke, you know, Dragoon deck tier 0 meta, yay! But in all seriousness, it is a pretty strong effect for what that deck wants to be doing, because Cherry Blossom is an insane special. Again, it takes a lot of work to set it up, and you know, if you're not playing against Earth and you just happen to build up the board, you're probably winning anyways. But when you get to resolve that Cherry Blossom for full value, let me tell you, it is the best feeling in the world. And now this is going to be opening up a position where it's like, all right, you hit me for a damage, I hit this off EX burst. Oh, I'm going to put this Freya to my hand, and now I'm going to be cracking back for like 4 or 5 points of damage, whatever it might be. So again, you're playing the Dragoon deck, you absolutely are welcoming in this card. Outside of that, you're of course really not playing it unless we get some insane Dragoon in the forward in the future, or if you want to play the forward Kane, for example, because it does have Job Dragoon as well. There's probably some other things you can be doing there, but we will see. And then Behemoth. This card is the Nutter Butters. I am the literal biggest fan of this card. I don't think anyone can top me on that. I was screaming when I saw this, absolutely screaming, and then I saw Azul, and you can imagine that I just lost my mind. This card is really just another key removal spell in Lightning that we can bring back. Now, yes, again, the drawback here is going to be Dark Emperor's on the field. You feel really bad about it, but it becomes an 8,000 power that says whatever your opponent is going to try to, you know, block with or what have you, they're losing it. Or maybe you just need to be defensive. You need to have a card on your side. Whatever they try to attack with, they're going to lose it. Now, it does deal the damage. So if they have, you know, Minwoo or something like that, or Cecil, I believe, says any, because it comes with forward, it will prevent that damage as well, if I remember the wording correctly. You know, Minwoo, what have you. There's a lot of different effects that can negate it. Larsa in a real odd world if we're playing Larsa, but it's, I think for how good this card is, and the fact it can just be 3, you can have multiple, you can just stack them up if you want. Sign me up for this card. I am playing a 2 of in every single deck. I might even play 3 because I'm greedy, and that might be the only monsters I play, you know, like a 3 Behemoth, or 2 Behemoth, 2 Dragon, something like that, 4 or 5. I don't know what those numbers are going to look like quite yet, but this card absolutely, you know, gets my attention for something that you should be playing. So I'm very excited to see kind of what is the best Behemoth deck at the end of the meta. Then we have 5 cost Magus. Enters the field, choose 1 forward, deal at 7,000 damage. If you control 5 or more, 5 standard units, deal at 9,000. So no. Again, kind of going back to that, if you want to create this really weird deep ground soldier, play 3 of the other 3 of Usher, 3 of Magus, go for it, be my guest somehow. But I think ultimately for what this card is, it's too expensive, 1, and 2, it's gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be very difficult to get 5 standard unit forwards onto the field. I had to read it twice there, just make sure it didn't say characters or anything silly. But yeah, it's a card that it's a common for a reason, so we'll leave it at that. Then we have the 2-drop Magus, put it in the break zone, choose an active forward, deal at 4,000. So again, this is kind of the comment that we made in another video towards Black Mage Opus. I believe that's Opus 1, where it's like pay 1 in a fire in itself, deal 4,000 damage to any forward. Now this requires it to be active. So it's very interesting. Again, it's one of those things where, like, you know, if you have Lulu and you just have to emergency do 9k to something, because the Lulu decks want a lot of 2-drops anyways. You know, you might get away with using this. Now, yes, obviously I understand you can't use Magus and then Lulu at the same time, but I'm just saying it gives you that option to have a little bit more reach where you might want it. Obviously Fusoya, Lightning Fusoya is going to be the best thing they're using for Lulu, but they are welcoming some of these other options. And not to be missed, you could also be doing something like Magus plus a follow-up ping effect or what have you. I do like this card and Wind Lightning possibly as an alternative. It really comes down to, like, are we playing archers, or are we playing Magus? You know, there's what other ping effects are we ultimately using for this card. But you know, outside of maybe those 2 applications, I'm pretty hard pressed to find room for it where you really want. And then we have Raiden, which is it's basically the Lightning Behemoth, but the difference here is you remove one, break the other, where Behemoth is damage focused, so they both kind of have their drawback for that. I think if you're playing mono Lightning, you're absolutely welcoming this card. If you have access to fire, you're probably still just playing Behemoth instead, so you can hard remove them. But I like this card, and there has been zero hype for it. Like, I don't think I've seen a list with it in it yet. I have a foil one I gotta do something with, so shout out to foils. But this is a card that I would fully expect to see play at some point in Opus 4, because it is a bit more expensive. I can see where people are shying away from it, but it is a card that I would absolutely welcome brewing with, and I think people might want to include 1 or 2 copies in their deck just because. And then we have the other legendary Lightning, and another card that I think is just absolutely insane, and this is one a lot more people are hyped on. So it's a Final Fantasy 13, obviously. So we have the tutor for it. When it attacks, enters the field or attacks, if you have a category 13 character. So yes, they finally gave it the effect where it counts your backups too, which, spoiler, Ice Lightning Mog 13, yes, absolutely. She is going to be dulling a lot of things. And then her last effect, you just get to discard a card named Lightning. So any of the variants of her, remove her from the game, and then put her into the field, dull. Now this is really important for 2 things. One, it's going to basically just get around any and all removal your opponent's going to have, because they cast something, you discard a Lightning, and you say, no, sorry, it's now a new card. That doesn't work. And then it's not affected by some of the other effects that your opponent might have that care about, you know, targeting or damage or any of those types of things. So it really opens up a way that this card is going to be very difficult for your opponent to anticipate on when they can remove it. And once it's in the field, you can decide when you want to break it. Maybe you want to just wait until you draw into another one. It is a 5 cost, so obviously we can't devout it and live all the dreams. So obviously that's intentional that it costs 5. But this is a card, and I'm not sure what... I think this one absolutely goes beyond Mono Lightning. I think if you're a Mono Lightning, you can probably play it just because, but I think there's going to be a deck out there that plays this, I'm assuming just isolating for the obvious reasons of the tutor, that want to be playing this card and can get the most value out of it. This card is really like Aetherling from Magic the Gathering, for those that played that game, in the sense that if you have the cost, you can just blink it and, or what was referred to as blink, so remove it from the game, put it back in the field, and really make it difficult for your opponent to interact with it. Now, it is not nearly as, you know, broken as that card was for, you know, at that point in time of Magic, but this is absolutely a card that reminds me of it, and all the reason why I want to be playing it. Will Lightning see play? God, I hope so. I still hate her as a character, and I'm sure I'm going to get some downvotes for that, but it is a card, you know, I can appreciate her card and the fact that it is amazing. And then we have Rom One Drop Expert, so ++. Choose a fort of cost 2 or less, break it. Choose a monster of cost 2 or less, and break it. So a lot of people by this point have probably already seen the wrath that monsters are bringing everyone, and this is a difficult one. This is absolutely, again, a card. If we had sideboards, this would absolutely be a 3 of in my sideboard. No questions asked. And at this point, it's like, how much do we really care about some of the different 2-drops that your opponent might be playing? And I like the card for what it is. It's going to be either insane in your matchups, depending on what you're going against. Like if you're going against water monsters, you're going to want to see, you know, 10 copies of this card basically. And then there's going to be other matchups, you know, I mean, against like Wind Lightning that you just don't care. Like this card does literally nothing in that matchup. except maybe kill a dragon, but then they just do something in response. So whoop-de-doo. Can't kill Behemoth, for example. So I'm really torn on how to feel about this card overall. I think if we see a heavy influx of monster decks, and if someone gets very lucky with just hitting, they're playing 3 of these and they hit water monsters all the way up through an event, that they will probably feel very good about the fact they included 3 of them. But for those people that, are just discarding this every single turn, or every single game, I should say, because it's terrible in those matchups, they're probably going to think about cutting it. So it's a very bipolar card, if you will. And then we have Ramza, so shout out to Max for the other half of the card that you mentioned, which is another card that, in the same way that it has with Delita, I'm very, it hurts that how good the other, because they're both knights, obviously, so with how good the other Ramza is, the 3-drop version, it just kills me because I see this card and I love the potential that it has. So maybe they're just 2 completely different decks that have what they want to be doing, but it's anytime a 4D control is put into the break zone, you get to activate them. So it's haste and plus 1,000 power. I really love, again, what this can be doing and opening up some other things. If you just really want something to be able to attack the turn it comes into play, if you just want to play like go, 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 fire, lightning, it's absolutely where it wants to be. But, I think it's going to get overshadowed completely by the other Ramza, and the fact that this effect is ultimately something you kind of have to build a deck into to get really the most value out of it. So I'm waiting to see where this goes. Probably nowhere, unfortunately, but again, the artwork is insane, so I got to give it that. And then up next, we have Yeoman. I love this card for what it wants to be and what it's doing, but, we have Behemoth, we have Dragon. There's so many good monsters that we want to be playing in Lightning that it's, I think, going to be very difficult to ultimately find room for this. Now, again, First Strike is an obscene ability right now. I think it's very, very strong for what it is. The fact that it replaces itself each draw card is insane, but at what point do we say, you know what? Just going to play no summons, just going to play 9 monsters, get the most out of it, and go to town. I can't imagine a world where that's right, unless you're playing the water monsters and you're playing the 2-drop that counter summons. But I mean, in Lightning, I really want to find a deck for this card. So if you guys have a brew that is featuring this card, let us know kind of what element combination you've been most successful with it. And I'd love to see kind of where this card goes. Again, it's one of those things that I think it's just going to get overshadowed by the other options, but we have to wait and see. Yeah, Dragoon. Good old Dragoon. 3-drop, 6k, can buff itself. It is what it is. It might be better than some of the other Dragoon cards that were just, I think we weren't playing any vanillas in the old list. I'd have to double check, but immediately replaces some of the obviously lower valued ones. But outside of a Dragoon deck, I can't see this card seeing that much play. And then we have Restrictor, which I had to double check what cards that it can search for, and it is absolutely Shulk and Azul. So spoiler, I love this card because it can tutor for Azul. And, do you want to play it in Ice Lightning so you can get Shulk? That's going to be another choice you ultimately have to make. But I think you're playing this just to have, a 1-of in the deck to find your Azul. So you're playing 3 copies, so to speak, of Azul because you play 2 of him and 1 of this, and you still get a 3-drop backup out of it. So 3-drop backups are getting a little bit tight for Lightning, and we'll see if you can still make room for it, but still very excited. And then what is the card you are most excited for in Opus 4 for Lightning? Again, I've kind of ranted at it quite a bit, and Jason actually put this together. He picked Lightning. Spoiler, I absolutely love Lightning as well, as I kind of ranted about it quite enough at this point. But I think it is absolutely an insane card that we need to think about how we're using it. So if you guys like this video, make sure to drop us a like down below. It helps us get the word out. Comment down below what card you are most excited for, and don't forget to subscribe for future Final Fantasy TCG content. Just do us a quick favor, smash that subscribe button. So on behalf of myself and the rest of the 6 Stages Gaming crew, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next video. Have a good one. This video made possible thanks to the Patreon support of viewers such as yourself. Thank you to our honorary sages.